The Episure AutoDetect syringe gives a visual indication of the loss of resistance and does not change the paradigm of the epidural procedure.
The Episure AutoDetect syringe was developed by Indigo Orb as an essential tool to alleviate the subjectivity associated with the use of thumb pressure. The uniqueness of Episure is in the engineered spring action that results in a precise, constant pressure on the plunger that in turn allows the physician and his team to visually detect the plunger action while both hands are focused on the steady, controlled advancement of the needle.
In my experience, there are several advantages to using the Episure AutoDetect syringe for performing the epidural procedure. The major advantage is that you can have both hands on the needle as you advance it towards the epidural space. This gives you greater sensitivity and control over the procedure. The other major advantage is that you have a visual indication of when the loss of resistance actually occurs. This is a major advantage for the person actually performing the procedure, and I find it a tremendous advantage while teaching others how to perform an epidural. The use of the AutoDetect syringe is actually quite simple. There are a few key points to remember, and we'll review them as we watch a demonstration. Here, you can see the anesthesiologist is prepping and draping the back. Then, local anesthetic is injected to make the procedure painless for the patient. Next, the TUI needle is inserted at the chosen level. The needle needs to be advanced until it is in the interspinous ligament before attaching the AutoDetect syringe. The tissue layers between the interspinous ligament and skin consists of fat and loose connective tissue and thus provide little or no resistance in some patients. So, if the AutoDetect syringe is attached to the needle before this point, there may be a false loss of resistance. Next, fill the syringe with 3 to 5 milliliters of saline. Hold the plunger in the retracted position as you attach it to the needle. If this plunger is not maintained in the retracted position before it is attached to the needle, the fluid will be expelled, as you can see here in this demonstration. Next, advance and redirect the needle as you normally would, except use both hands on the needle and don't apply pressure on the plunger. You can hold the needle and brace your fingers or hands on the patient's back in any manner that you are comfortable with. When the TUI needle enters the epidural space, the plunger will expel the saline. Remove the syringe and continue with the remainder of the procedure as you normally would. Recapping the important points. The exact volume of saline used does not matter because the spring in the AutoDetect syringe was designed to have a constant tension irrespective of volume. Hold the plunger after you draw up the saline until the AutoDetect syringe is attached to the needle. Advance the TUI needle with both hands for improved control and sensitivity. It is essential that saline is used for the loss of resistance and not air. Air does not hold the resistance in the tissues as well as saline does. For the experienced provider, the Episure AutoDetect syringe will allow the provider to keep both hands on the needle as they're advancing it towards the epidural space, and they can concentrate on controlling the needle more than they do using the standard technique. As a teaching physician, I really like the visual endpoint that the syringe gives me, and I can actually know when the resident has a loss of resistance. And finally, I think trainees will really appreciate this visual loss of resistance also. That way they can concentrate on the feel that they get as they advance the needle through the various tissues towards the epidural space.
Episure is an invaluable tool that will not only provide better control for the experienced physicians, but more importantly, will provide an added measure of confidence and safety for our up-and-coming physicians. We at Indigo Orb, with the support of physicians around the world, strive to implement Episure as the standard in epidural syringes.